everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. Today we're having a hot take kind of day, and to do it we're talking about Chimera in this video. We're joined by none other than Bront Catherder. How's it going, dude?
Oh, pretty good. Just nice to catch up with you. It's been a little while since we talked, and
Yeah.
you're a man of hot takes. Cassandra, the worst champion ever type. So this will be a fun day. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think the CVC live streams especially, they can go a bit crazy, but with the hot takes. But yeah, we're going to be doing a collab on Bront's channel as well. We're just talking about hot takes in general. And then in this video, I want to dive a bit more into Chimera, because I was saying one of my hot takes recently was that I just don't like Chimera. I just think it's kind of, it started off okay, I think, and then it kind of flopped, and it's been a disappointing game mode, and I've got some big concerns about it going forwards later into the year when they add auto battles and whatnot. But Bron's, like, what's first of all your quick overall on Chimera? Do you like it, dislike it? Is it good? Is it bad? What's the overview from your perspective at time of recording, anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where you've talked about how Hydra is kind of retired content. I
Mm,
still find Hydra more enjoyable overall because building the teams is consistent. It's fun. It can involve some planning, and the
mm,
champions are accessible for progression in obvious ways. The problem with Chimera is that there just doesn't seem to be that level of progression, and we'll certainly dive into why I think that. But I just feel like it feels like a roadblock, and it feels like you need really weird, specific things to progress further.
yep. Well, I mean, I've just been flicking through some of these teams, and certainly the fusion token systems kind of help with this. But for me, this is problem one with Chimera, which is certainly for Chimera Clash. We're competing with other clans, which is part of this problem. Titus with Wixwell, right?
Mhm.
There's not a whole lot of variety here in terms of who the top damage dealer is, eh, Bront?
No,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
So that's a big problem. And I think so. Number one, it's like it's so far ahead. Like, I mean, look at 180 billion. Let's see, what is the
Mhm.
top damage on from this particular? This is a good Chinese clan, I think, the best Chinese clan. The next, the
Mhm.
the best damage either non-Titus is a Toshiro, 10 billion. It's 18 times the points that he's done with this Titus team. Now he won't have done as many. He's done 6 trials, for example, which is the downside of it, and that's something we can mention for sure. Versus 9, I mean, it's not a huge amount of trials here either. But in terms of the actual points for Clash, it's an absolute disaster. Um, Something that I think is much worse about this, and I think it became a problem in Hydra as well, is one of the coolest things I think is learning how. Okay, how do I deal with this? How do I take on this Chimera? I'm newer to the game. I don't know what to do. How do I actually beat it? One of the big things you can do is come in and you can. Okay, there's no Hydra teams to see, but you can copy your clan mates or the enemy clans. You can go, what if they run? Oh, they ran, champion X. That's cool. It doesn't want to
Mhm.
load up now, but they ran this champion. Oh, I've got that champion. I could build that team. Let me try that. Okay, I'll try out this strategy. That's kind of cool. Oh, why are they using? I mean, she's time limited, but why are they using Zinogre Blade Master? I actually have her. All right, I'll give it a go. And you can copy, and you can learn from trying other things. One of the big problems with this is I don't have Titus. What can I learn from this team? Nothing. The only thing you've learned is should have been there when Titus was out. That's literally it. There's nothing else to learn. There's no team building advice to be had there. No useful info. It's just you don't have Titus. I'm destroying you, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing for you to learn. It's just over. I think it is a problem with Hydra these days as well, with Trunda and Titus, that they're so dominant that you just see the same team over and over again. There's no varieties, nothing to copy, and no innovations much happening. But I don't know how you feel about that, Bront, or if you've seen that. 'Cause you've got like a free to play account, right? That's over a year old, I think, at this point. Is that right?
Yeah,
So yeah, what's your
it
perspective?
well, a lot of it too is, you're talking about the entry players and new players. Part of the reason because I reached out to you to do some of this video because I figured you'd love this topic, obviously, and
Yeah, I can
um,
rant. I can rant.
And one of the things that I was talking about with some people, and I talked about with you, is I know
Mm.
people that have been playing since Chimera came out that still don't have Empress because they're
Oh, yeah.
struggling with Chimera, partially because it's confusing for them, and partially because they find it so disinteresting they don't feel it's worth doing
Hmm.
for a champion like Empress, who is by far, I think, possibly, other than Marius, the best fusion or the best free champion they've ever given us.
Yeah.
I could actually probably argue that I think he might be more impactful than I've, used him. He solves. I mean, I've recently used him to solve Amius for solo content. You can solo, Sand Devil, which is one of the most important end game dungeons in the game. He's good for PvP. He's actually good for PvE because he can do so much wave clear damage. He's easy to build as well. There's just so many things that he does. Marius is great, but Marius still needs another team around him to do stuff. So, that's, my hot take, I guess, kind of,
Mm.
spoiler alert for other videos we might be doing. But, um, that's not necessarily that hot of a take either, because he's a great champion. I don't think anyone's going to say that he's not one of the top two or three, if not the top one. And the fact that you have people that know that and still are unwilling to do Chimera lets you know how unfun Chimera can be.
Mm.
And yeah, your leaderboard thing there. And to be fair, the leaderboard is one of the advantages that this leaderboard has is the rewards are absolute crap to the point of where it's
Yeah.
almost not worth doing it anyway for the leaderboard, which is a problem in and of itself too.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, it really is a case of because the boss is so complex. I mean, Hydra is complex. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but each part has like one or two moving parts to it, and that's it. Whereas each boss head, they've got 4 or 5 different things going for them, and then the trials on top of that add 7 or 8 other variable mechanics to it as well.
Mm.
Where it's like, I don't have a Galathir, for example. Well, who do I swap in? Well, okay, maybe
Yeah.
I swap in Firol, but Firol does different stuff. So he doesn't
Hmm.
quite do the same thing. So now I need to swap a different champion on my team. So suddenly I can't do, so there's a lot less drop in just a single different champion, which is one of the strengths of Hydra, I think, honestly, especially for progression. For progression, oh, I don't have a provoker to, okay, I guess I'll just use Jizzo for the time being as an option. Not great, but he's usable.
Hmm.
To, oh, look, I pulled a Taragi. He's kind of cool. He can actually kind of do the job here. Okay. To maybe, oh, Stultus is even better because I can build him with resistance and still use him because that makes sense for him. So I'll build a Stultus instead. And suddenly I have a mischief tank on top of a provoker. Suddenly I have kind of this guy that's doing 2 tools, and that's an epic. You've got the Ugos of the world that are epics that are so valuable for a lot of progression. Heck, some endgame players still use Ugo in Hydra as well. You have that level of champion being able to be impactful because you only need each champion to do 2 or 3 different things for Hydra to be valuable.
Yeah.
And the ones that do more are more valuable, but they're not irreplaceable. Unlike in Chimera, where it's like, all right, Wixwell is great because Wixwell does this shield thing and is the only one that enables it, and Titus is the only one that does the damage, and then the rest of the team is all built around that. Okay, I guess you
Mm.
kind of have that in Hydra. But some of these other ones that are doing all the trial monster things, it's like the Galathir team needs to have X, Y, and Z other champions to be built around with them as well. Or, there's a lot of mythicals that are showing up in Chimera, which is, I guess, is fine for end game, but the mythicals
Mm.
are so hard for people to book, so hard for people to get. And if your goal for Chimera is to dominate it with mythicals, then you're
Yeah.
already making it something that 95% of the players will never deal with. At least the casuals are definitely never going to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think that's a really good point, particularly about the mythicals, right? Like, okay, what if I want to copy Mango Steela's team here? Okay, what if I don't have Alaz, right? What can I put in
Mhm.
instead? Well, okay, if you swap literally anything else in, well, he's opening up a lot of stuff because he's a mythical. He opens up potentially the burn trials, counterattack, increased defense. So actually, if we swap him out for basically any other champ in the game, maybe Hecaton could do some of it, but that's a brand new Void Legendary. But you're basically, you go, oh well, now you're missing. If you're trying to do trials, you're missing this trial and this trial
Mhm.
and this trial, and then because you're missing this one, you can't get to the next one. So actually, you kind of have to just rebuild the whole team from scratch. If you and it's like, well, I don't have that mythical because he's a mythical. So yeah, again, like this is relatively not useful. Or like, I think another good example is, oh well, oh cool, I finally pulled this Fina, right? I can't wait to use this Fina team. You go, oh well, actually, do you have Galathier? Because if you don't have Galathier, there aren't really any of the good high elves to run with her, and then she doesn't get the extra turn, and then it doesn't really work. So, like yeah, it's actually not that useful. And you're like, oh man, that sucks. Or like Galathier, because he's the mythical, it brings in that decrease resist that can open up some trials as well. And like, oh my gosh. Um, and yeah, I think it's very hard to swap stuff in, and I certainly think the trials leans are far too difficult, and I lean far too much on very exclusive, very high end champions. It's extremely difficult to copy teams if you don't have the exact champions. Um, the exact investment. And yeah, like sure, there well not this one, but you could have a team like this, and like this is a really nice team. You could pretend Mikage, get her for free eventually, Lydia, get her for free eventually. You could fuse in theory Wix, Wella Wella, and Titus. You could get them all from the fusion token system. It's a fairly accessible team. Of course, it's going to take, if you're starting from scratch, it's going to take you a year and a half, and by the time you actually get it, will it actually still be that good? I don't know. But it's a somewhat accessible team. But again, if you miss even, like, if you don't have Titus, team doesn't work. If you don't have Wix, well, team doesn't work. Blah blah blah. It's a bit of, I don't know. I find this a really big problem, to be honest. And yeah, there's just, I think they released Titus way too early as well. I think it's just fairly stifled innovation, where coupled with, I think, people not enjoying Chimera and not wanting to do it. I'm in that situation. I'm looking at some of these teams. I'm like, this is better than my team. I have these champs. I could build them, but I'm not really bothered. I don't want to. Um, but yeah, I think there is a bit of that lack of innovation there. And Titus is sort of, I don't know. Do you think they did it on purpose? Did they bring out Titus to be like, okay, people are kind of 6 months on, people bored of Chimera. Let's just
I,
give them something totally broken. Uh,
I
or
think they did
I
it
don't
maybe
know.
as an apology for the the Corpulent Cadaver nerf that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did. I think it might have been okay, fine, people really, really love these teams. We'll give them a fusion that lets them do it better than what they were doing beforehand, and then it's a void legendary as
Mm,
well. And to be fair, I don't think they thought about the fact they were later on going to have you can redo the fusions later on anyway. So that, of course, certainly plays a little bit into
mm,
your ability to get these teams and build them. As I said, now technically anybody, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years in, can build this team, which is kind of nice, but also,
yeah.
3 years in is certainly a long time to wait to be able to get into
Yeah.
Chimera.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is kind of funny too is like we talked about this a couple of times. We've talked about Hydra versus Chimera, I think, in a previous video, where
Mm,
we talked about how there were Hydra champions that showed up that were useful for Hydra champions. What Chimera champions have really kind of shown up that were like, this is a Chimera champion through and through?
mm.
Klazag? Well, that's a
Oh
void
yeah.
legendary that was never guaranteed, so that's not helpful for most people. And in
Mm.
fact, you look there. How many Klazag's teams did you see?
Yeah, almost none. Yeah, if none, possibly.
Now, to
Yeah,
be fair,
people.
that's a trials team, so if you're looking at the top damage, maybe you're not seeing them there. Maybe people are
Mm,
deciding, "I wanna go for, like, 20 trials." Well, Klazag is the key to 20 trials, he's just nuts, but
yeah,
he's
he's
not a
insane.
damage beast either. He does some decent damage, but
Hmm.
you're not gonna be getting the billions of damage with a Klazag team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got the two. I think you've got problems on both ends of the spectrum. You were talking about people in that that haven't got
Mhm.
Embrace because just the fundamental boss and progressing through it is perhaps too difficult and frustrating. I mean, I was kind of shocked. They did the infographic, right? The 2025 year in review, and the most used champion is Ninja for the lower difficulties. And it's like,
Mhm.
but Ninja isn't available anymore. So, like, where are people to go? What are they supposed to do? Um, like, yeah, to be fair, I think Cassandra is a good. I don't think she's amazing, but I think she's very good. Chimera damage dealer for people who don't have Ninja. So people started this year maybe could have grabbed her. Obviously, she's going to be permanently unavailable after this, and effectively is permanently unavailable now, unless you
Mhm.
happen to pull her from shards, which is unlikely. Um, I think they've done some good reworks as well. Like, to be fair to them, I think the Harvest Jack rework. Okay, he's got decreased attack block buffs. He's got a True Fear and decreased speed. Okay, that's nice for Chimera. They, they've
Hmm.
they've done some stuff to rework some old champions to deal with Chimera, but it's pretty slow. Um, and for me, I've been in like basically for my Chimera teams, I had like a Lady Mikage ninja team with like Elva and whatever, which is better for trials. And now I've got my Titus team, and I can make a couple of small changes to each of those. But for the most part, I've basically used two teams for the whole time, with a couple of champ changes here or there for affinities. But I've very very little. Yeah, sure, they've added some champs that are better at this stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's been pretty slow, and you might not have those or pull them anyway. And yeah, like I don't know, I'm here going like apart from that is one nice thing about Titus. It was a whole new team to build, but other than that, very little in terms of actually building new teams for me. I don't know if you found that as well. Like probably on your free to play, you said like you're obviously pulling more better champions. So I imagine your team changes up a bit more often. But
A little bit, but it's also
yeah,
like one of these things because you like there's actually the incentive to not change it because
mm,
I'm going to lose out on a trial because I changed my team. In fact, I recently changed my team and it ended up working out for the better. I went from a team that had Mithrala on it because I wanted the extra cleanse from Mithrala because she just added that. Plus, she let me do the poison trial fairly well. Plus, she brought a shield, which
mm-hmm.
actually meant I might not die on the ram form occasionally. And I could try to do the shield quest on, and I say try because it's so hard to do that shield quest.
Oh
That
yeah, it's silly.
here's
Yeah.
the Polarium, why do you make a shield quest on a champion that ignores shields on one of his attacks? It's just seriously, why? It's just they're trolling people. It's funny.
Yeah.
Um,
I think like they
but
obviously nerfed a lot of the difficult trials before. I think they need to do it again. I think a lot of these
mhm,
are too silly. But like one that really annoys me actually like just I could rant pretty much about almost every single one of these trials. There's stuff that's annoying. With this one here, right? So you have to do damage based off enemy max HP, but it resets when he changes the form.
mhm.
And the dual bar, in fact, I can show it to you in the thing. You have to do like 8 million damage, but I think the dual bar itself is like 8 million in size.
Mhm.
So you basically have to complete easy and normal on the first time through so that you can dedicate the entirety of your second go at the ram form to doing this. Now, not so with the Titus team, because Titus can hit for like 40 million, and even if there's 2
Mhm.
million on the shield and he hits for 40 million, it goes, oh, you did 40 million damage, congrats, the trial is done. And you're like, oh my god, that's very handy. It's convenient, but it's stupid,
Mhm.
but it's convenient. But like there's generally, I think most of these trials are ridiculously difficult to complete at all for people. Like, and I
Well,
think
like the
they're
Viper one, for example, has a
uh,
survive 5 turns, I think, for one of them, and then the
three
next one
turns
is revive some people
revive.
successfully. It's like,
Yeah.
why what kind of a team are you gonna have that can survive all trials and then revive somebody after you survive all 5 of those without trying to figure out how
Hmm.
to get one of your guys killed intentionally? It's just
Yeah. Basically what you have at the high end, these trials, you need ridiculously specific champions, and you basically need to be a whale and or kraken perhaps to like legitimately be doing that. I actually think Captain is free to play, but like, he got very lucky with his pulls right there,
Mhm.
obviously. But yeah, to build a trial team is ridiculously difficult to get. I thought that was I thought there was a few people that were very upset about the voting thing. They're like, "Why are you voting for the Gore Crescent? We get so many Gore Crescents." I'm like, "Bro, you're getting so many Gore Crescents because you're getting like all the mythical materials twice, two keys of mythical materials from Chimera every week, and most people aren't drowning in Gore Crescents. That's a you problem." Um, but anyway, I digress, as Ash would say. But yeah, like the trials, they're very difficult. I think the rewards suck. Like if I take a look at Brutal, like you're getting like basically all these rare and the epic stuff. For the most part, there's a few, you can get a few Arethi coronets, that's good, but for the most part you're just using that as food. It's not actually doing, it's filling in some, it might be a 12% crit damage or something for a damage dealer. Like it's fine, but it's not that good really. I think it's more a placebo of being useful than actually being useful, if you can even do them, full stop.
Well, here's the other thing the
I
trials
don't know.
cause a problem with as well, is that the trials because they grow in scale and difficulty as you move up. For
Mm,
example, I've been stuck at hard and brutal on my free to play
yeah.
because for a while I was struggling to get the one key in brutal, but
Mm,
now that I, changed my team up, whatever else, I end up throwing Glyciad in there, which is, fun. And I'm using,
yeah.
of course, Leonardo and Michelangelo because the two turtles actually synergize well together, and Leonardo is good with Attack the Turtle. That's
Yeah.
obviously in a very accessible team for people nowadays, because if you,
Yeah.
start now, you'll never do that one. But it's I'm getting 7 to 9 trials on Brutal. I can get the 1 key, but I also know that moving from Brutal to Nightmare,
Mm,
I may actually get a lower chest on Nightmare because of the damage hit, and I'm gonna get less trials done as well. So there's almost no incentive for me to move up
yeah.
right now just because of the rewards that I would get with that, even though, to be fair, I would be replacing my hard key with a Nightmare key instead, but still,
Mm,
because you lose on the trials, sometimes you can go from, like, 9 trials to 2 just because you're barely doing the 9 trials, and suddenly when that shifts again and the difficulty gets harder, it's just it's very unfortunate. And I think the other thing that's unfortunate with it too is they didn't want everyone to dominate it by not doing the live arena guild hall or great hall or whatever you want to call it.
mhm.
That I think was a mistake on their end, or at least if it wasn't a mistake to do it initially, I think it's a mistake that they haven't done it by now
Yeah.
because
Would help.
yeah,
Mm.
not ever to be fair, early game accounts are still not doing that either because 'cause they're not doing very well in live arena, so they're
Yeah.
not gonna have a ton of help there,
Mm,
but there's plenty of people that have been playing for a while, and you know what? If I can throw 6 extra speed and 6% extra ignore damage and, 9% crit damage, just the level 3s of those 3 things,
yeah.
that might be enough to push me up a chest or maybe even a level in a couple cases where I'm kind of struggling a little bit. And that in itself might make that just a little more enjoyable as well.
Yeah. One thing I would say as well, I don't know, here's a hot take, right? I think they kind of copied the Demon Lord structure where, back in the day you were running these keys and it'd take you ages and, you'd be potentially putting multiple keys into the one difficulty to get the big reward. I think they copied the multi-key structure over to to Chimera. I don't think
Mhm.
like what is the benefit to having two keys versus just doing one key but with twice the rewards, right? Apart from wasting a lot of time. Like what's the actual point? you know, like
Mhm.
if they came out and said, "You know what? Actually, just do one key every week, but we'll give you twice the rewards." But like, yeah, that's great. That's great. I don't like why am I doing these shenanigans across two different like what's the point? And I think I think again, it the game has moved on so much since Demon Lord. I think putting two keys into the same difficulty just feels bad. To try reach your chest, I don't think that feels fun. I don't think having multiple keys really adds much. I think you could easily knock a key off and it just a bit of a time saver. I think the multiple keys works for Hydra because you have to use different champions each time. So there's a
Mhm.
tangible difference there. With Chimera, it's like especially if you're doing two keys into the same difficulty to get materials or whatever, like it's snooze fest. You're just doing the same chore twice in a row. It's just boring. I would also say hot take as well. I think the fight is probably too long. Does it need to be 65 turn? Like what if it was 35 and you only fought each form once? and
Yeah, I mean that ruins the trials thing a little bit, I
it
guess,
would.
because it
Yeah.
does nice to have the other trials there. But yeah, it
Mm.
certainly takes a long time. Um, and here's the thing too, it is so difficult to just put on full auto because
Yeah,
of some of the
that's true.
setup you need to do for the Viper form specifically. And I
Yep.
think it's if it wasn't for the Viper form, you probably could manage full auto. I mean, the Ram form has got a little shenanigans from trials perspectives,
Yeah.
but literally I know I have to go till about, I literally look around turn 23/53 and all right, the moment it ticks over to 54, I click it off auto and start conserving anything that puts a buff out in any way, shape, or form. Because even with
Yes.
9-piece protection, unlike my Elva, which is an MVP for anybody that's kind of struggling through Chimera, Elva's just does so much for you on there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's, that there's a 25% chance that the Viper form could steal my block debuffs, and then suddenly I've just wrecked my run in, you know, so
Yep.
yeah, just.
That's
not
a
good
I
at all.
actually I meant to talk about this point and I forgotten until you brought it up. It's a great point. Like with this team in the background, I've got Androck. He's a mythical. He basically gives your team infinite resistance. You resist everything. It's grand. Obviously, there's a 3% chance that your shield gets removed and Titus damage gets nerfed, but each time. But well, say Levi. But yeah, no, it's a great point because with my old team, yeah, I used to stop, turn 23, like after the ultimate form does his buff removal for the second time before going into the Viper iteration. It's like, okay, go on manual. Again, I was playing with Elva. Then I was actually used Raka for a while as well. I was like, okay, don't use the block debuffs move because it's going to steal stuff. It's a big problem for when they bring out auto, like quick battles, right? Because
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to quick battle. Your teams, half the teams are just going to die. And I think this is also going back to what you were saying, probably a big reason why you do have a lot of players that aren't even getting Empress. They aren't participating in this because even with Demon Lord, sure, there was some like back in the day, there was some manual setup to get your speed tune up and running for the first few turns, but then it was click auto, step back, and it works basically 100% of the time in the exact same way. With
Mhm.
Chimera, you don't have that. Like I can't set it up for the first 5 turns and then step back. I have to jump back at like, oh, it's coming up to the Viper form. Oh, I gotta be paying attention. And I've had plenty of runs fail because I'm watching TV and I look down at my phone and go, oh shit, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't stop it at the time. I'm just dead. Runs over. Start again. Fun, fun, fun. But yeah, you can't set it up and leave it run on auto. And I think that's a big issue. I think they've missed the mark there, trying to create something that they've created something that needs engagement, and you have to actually play the game. I don't know if that's something that people want to do twice a week, every week, forevermore, and it takes like half an hour each time to do the run. And then, hey, if something goes wrong because there's a whole lot of randomness in this particular boss, something went wrong, well, shit, you better just start again. You just wasted 20 minutes of your time, got nothing out of it. Not very fulfilling, I think. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
I don't know.
I think part of the problem too is, we're talking about champions limitations,
Hmm.
and I think we actually talked about this last time. I'll bring it up again because I think it's a good take on something that will be fun. What
Hmm.
if they suddenly said, "Okay, you can add another champion to this." Suddenly, it's
Yeah,
a
six
6th
champ.
champion thing.
Yeah,
That becomes suddenly it's accessible for earlier game players because just adding that extra champion means you can get a skill you didn't have beforehand. You can
sure.
suddenly play with your teams a little bit more because there's a little more room for either having overlapping skills or, underlapping skills in some cases because like, okay, I don't need 2 of this anymore because I can have an extra person that does something else instead, that sort of stuff. You don't have to rely like Lydia's strength is she does so much for you all at the same time,
Takes like a year to
and
get her though,
yeah,
right? Like no use to a new player. What are you supposed to
yeah.
do?
Well, but I mean, at least Lydia's, I understand Lydia is a good limiting, but Lydia is a good limiter till you get faction wars done, and at this point, that's a 6-month trial for a lot of people, so it's not
Hmm.
the worst thing in the world. But and at least Lydia's a guaranteed champion too, not like
That's
Wixwell or
true.
something else like that. But again, where's the upgrade from Lydia, which seems like a
Hmm.
weird thing. There's just not a lot of direct replacements for Lydia. But if I had 2 different players, Lydia for a while was an MVP of Hydra too, but she's kind of fallen off in Hydra just because there are so many other ways to replace her that you can replace her and not miss out on anything that she actually does that's useful in Hydra.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess like Ramantu sort of fills in a bit, but he takes even longer to get than Lydia. And he's not that much of an upgrade. He just brings decreased speed, and you lose the
Wait,
block
you say
active
longer than
skills.
that. I think most people have
Yeah,
insisted that Ramantu is never gonna be gotten for most people because that gold 1 tag is
so
so,
bad.
so
Yeah,
rough.
that's true. Yeah, and like yeah, he's sort of a he's I'd say he's more of a side grade to be honest to Lydia. It's like you lose a lot of stuff, you gain a couple of kind of nice things. You saw when we looked at the list, like a few people were
Mhm.
using him, but yeah, it's very much a
And
side
granted,
grade.
if you upgrade him to if Plarium were to patch him and said that his True Fear worked on bosses,
That'd be great. Yeah.
and that's the only change you really
Mm,
need, and suddenly he becomes a meta Chimera champion once you get him, which makes the interest in him peak.
yeah. I think they my hope because as I said, I'm really worried they bring out Chimera quick battles and a huge amount of the player base would be like, "Yay, come here, quick battles, let's try it." Oh, my team doesn't work because it doesn't work on auto. I'm really concerned. So I think that's it's such an obvious problem that my hope is that they do have things like some more nerfs to Chimera planned to make it more consistent. It doesn't
Mhm.
even need to be easier, but more consistent. And also potentially adding in, as you mentioned, some area bonuses to help out there. Keep on adding some more Chimera specific champions. I mean, it would be nice to have some sort of mission champion or something that's gettable. That would be really good for Chimera. Can't go wrong with that. But yeah, I hope that they have improvements already. Like we've already planned it out. We've already developed. It's half ready to go. It's gonna be ready for Chimera quick battles. Like I hope that's gonna happen because surely it will have to. Because if they just drop quick battles, it's just not like again. Anyone who's got the tightest team is like, yeah, sure, fine. It's obviously not as good if you auto it, but screw it, right? Slap it in on auto quick battle. It's done. Great, but anyone who doesn't have this, you're so screwed. Like you're
Mhm.
just gonna die. Your Elva put a block buff, so no, it got stolen by the Viper. Now you're all dead, and there's nothing that you can do to prepare for it. Oh, there's one Klazag team. We got one Klazag team in there. You got
Yeah,
11
it's
trials.
the bottom damage team there, but
Bottom
that's a
damage, but
trials run there.
the trials,
11 trials
yeah,
too.
yeah. I also think I think it's really difficult for people trying to do the trials, right? I think for just trying to progress through the affinity change, it's not a huge deal. But there's so many different affinities and different, or I think there's 6 or something different rotations with different trial setups. Now, I think the rotations stay the same, but it takes so long to rotate through them. Like I've got no clue. I feel like it's perhaps that's somewhat on me as a player and content creator. Perhaps I should have some more of a clue, but I feel like they could make it easier to track the rotations. Like, does there need to be 6? Like maybe 4 would be fine, and you'd have a better idea for, oh, okay, well, rotation 2 is like this, and I can use this team for rotation 2. I think again, there's just too much unnecessary complexity and just too much quantity there that really makes sense, where it's like I probably a bunch of people watching didn't even know that there were specific rotations with specific trials per rotation, and that you can build a team for rotation 5 and use it when rotation 5 comes back. Like I don't know, I just slap in the Titus team and I'm like, yep, grand, cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know, I'm a Titus hater and a Titus lover in some ways, but yeah, I don't know. All right. Do you have anything, Bronze, anything that you want to finish with? We've had a lot of negativity, probably not
Mhm.
a few solutions, and not a ton, but a few solutions in there. Do you have any sort of final things you want to say about Chimera before we jump to your channel and talk about the game in general and have some hot takes, both good and bad, about
Yeah,
that?
I think yeah, I think that the Plarium needs to figure out a couple of solutions for the full auto situation.
Hmm.
And they really need to figure out, there's all kinds of problems with it. I think part of the problem that it has with the resistance part in general too is that resistance is so hard to build for so many champions too
Yeah.
because of the way they've chosen to implement it. Or
Yeah.
resistance has to be an extra 100 points higher than the accuracy you need for something. So it's just
Yeah.
very frustrating. And of course, increased resistance at least helps with that. But again,
Mm-hmm.
champions like that do that are so rare and so invaluable if they
Yeah.
don't do other tons of stuff. Like Androck does so much else that's the reason that Androck makes sense for this particular team.
I would actually jump in and I would say we've had decreased accuracy in the game for a long time. It's not massively used. I think it's much more
Mhm.
accessible than increased resist. They brought out a boss where it's like, oh wow, wouldn't it be great to resist what it does? But surprise, the Viper form and the Ultimate form, they're A3, the thing you really want to resist. Well, whenever it swaps to that form, it removes all the debuffs and does that move immediately, and there's nothing you can do. So decrease accuracy, literally useless, right? Because it
Mhm.
removes it automatically, unstoppably, at the exact moments when you would most want to have it. And it's like, what? Why? Why is it? So to build a resistance team, you can only lean on increased resistance, and then very, very specific champs like Androck or Firol that give you bonus resist. Because that decreased accuracy debuff, doesn't actually help. We've designed the boss that would like to use it. It just doesn't work. Why?
Mhm.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I was just like that. That's
No,
annoyed me
I
about
think
Chimera
that that's a
too.
great play on the point I was making. It's just, resistance, some of it is just basic game design holding the game back in other areas, and that's not to say that the resistance thing is a mistake. It's a practical
Mm,
choice they've made,
yeah.
but the result of that and the consequences of that are weird teams like this, or the fact that Titus, that's the other thing too. Titus teams require weird gear because Titus
Yeah.
wants crit damage, doesn't necessarily need crit rate if you don't need to build everything else out of them, and wants resistance. And how much resistance
Hmm.
nuking gear do you really keep most of the time either? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like if I got rid of Androck, I'd have to rebuild everyone entirely to have enough resistance. Which actually, another point. Another. I. I don't have 5-star souls on these I haven't bought enough soul stones, bronze. Haven't paid
mm,
enough. So
yeah, there
I've
you
got a
go.
big resistance penalty as well. So yeah, you want to build resistance. Though there's no area bonuses you could grind out, but and you can grind the soul stones, but they're useless, right? What you really should just be really, a few $100 worth of soul stones to every soul event. I think is the player friendly, the consumer friendly solution, right?
Well, isn't this one of the bosses that has your favorite passive that also does the damage mitigation and
Does
whatever
he?
for?
I don't think he does, but maybe. He might be
I
one of
know
the
you
ones
love
that
that one.
doesn't. Yeah, my favorite I think this boss doesn't have it, where he takes more
I actually thought he
damage
did.
and deals
So
less damage if you've got.
do it on
It's hard to know
Solarium, I
because
guess.
they also don't always tell you all the stuff that bosses do. But no, I don't think he does. I think he's one of the few bosses in the game that is missing my favorite passive, which is one of the nice things. You know what? Actually, Chimera is the best boss I've ever designed. Sorry, I take it all back. It's actually, you know what? Spoiler for my hot take, bro. I think what would really improve PvP, actually, right? Hot take, spoiler for your video on your channel. What
Mhm.
if they added that passive into PvP? So the more blessings that a Kraken has on their, more stars they have on one of their characters in PvP, they get up to a 50% bonus damage, and they also take up to 50% less damage. Imagine how much better that would make PvP. Wouldn't that be great? Well, that's my
Well, I
hot
think they're just
take.
saving that for the buff for Galathier. They're going to add that as an extra passive.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Anyway, right. Sorry. Did you have any other final points? I
No,
went on
no,
a
no.
couple of rants,
I think we've
interrupted you.
covered a lot of stuff here, and it's
Yeah.
definitely let us know down below what you guys think of some of this Chimera stuff. We appreciate your opinions as well, and sometimes
Mm.
you come up with something that we didn't think of as well. It's actually great to hear from you guys.
Yeah. Give us some solutions to the number one. Do you agree with the problems? And number two, what would your solutions be? Because it's interesting. Like I said, hopefully Plarium already has the solutions locked in, but you never know. So maybe we could have a positive impact here as well. But yeah, Bront, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Remember, you can find Bront's channel down below. We're going to be recording the hottest of takes over on Bront's channel, so you're definitely going to want to check out that video. And I'll link that down below as well. Sure, why not? The value proposition. It's crazy. Go down there in the description. Have a look. But yeah, thanks for joining, Bront. And we will
Yep.
see y'all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.